Welcome to the Real Business Lifetime Lessons podcast, where Carolina business leaders get real about growth, grit, and leadership. Today, we're joined by Anthony Morris. Anthony is the co founder of Land and Links, a boutique golf travel company that curates unforgettable trips for high end private clubs and their members. A former PGA professional, Anthony has built his business around trust, hospitality, and personalized service, growing steadily year after year without sacrificing quality. In this episode, he shares how a one-off transportation snafu turned into a signature service and why relationship-driven growth is the core of everything they do. Anthony, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Aubrey. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear our story.
Thank you. Well, let's jump right into that. You started your career as a PGA professional. What did that experience teach you about service that you carried into Land and Lakes?
Yeah, so I went to Clemson seeking a career in the golf industry, and they offered a PGA golf management program where you could become a PGA professional upon graduating. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that led to a bunch of internship opportunities at high-end private clubs, and it also landed me a job at a high-end private club in the Carolinas at the Cliffs. It's a really high-end golf community in the upstate. That was my first job. I was an assistant golf pro there right out of college. And obviously with the internships and with working there, there's a high demand for customer service. And, you just you sort of get forced into learning how to navigate that world. And it was very valuable in programming me to think that way. And it really paid off with building this business, which is so focused on the customer and their experience and, trying to take care of all the stressful details for them. And my last job as an assistant pro was at Sage Valley Golf Club, which is an extremely exclusive high-end membership as well. So all that kind of work together in my favor and makes customer service second nature in a way.
When you and I had our intro call, you mentioned that there was a bit of a snafu at Pebble Beach that helped you really pivot your business. What did that first Pebble Beach hosting trip teach you about your business that a traditional marketing campaign could never have taught you?
So basically what happened was we had built a package at the request of of a private club that we were working with. They had requested, listen, our members they don't want to drive rental cars. They want to just show up, get picked up, taken to the resort, and they're willing to pay for it. They're willing to do what it takes to make this a really simple experience. And I set up a transportation company to do that for them. This was before we had even considered going on these trips. And what happened was in following up with the transportation company, whether it was my fault or the fault of the company themselves, or a little bit of both, they didn't have our reservations and they weren't able to accommodate us. And this was very last minute. Probably within a week of the trip, I decided, well, someone's got to pick these people up from the airport. Someone's got to take them to the resort, to Pebble Beach, and every other service was booked out. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go rent a van and I'm going to become the driver and I'm going to fly out and see Pebble Beach for the first time. So I flew out there and spent a week with this group. And I realized how much they appreciated just the little things. If they needed some Tylenol from CVS or whatever it was, I could go do it for them. I could check in for them in the golf shop. I can change dinner reservations while they're playing golf, take photos of them so that they have them forever. The response I received from that was an aha moment where it was like, having someone on this trip is critical to this type of clientele. You can really react actually be proactive in a lot of ways that you wouldn't know if you were sitting here from home. So it's created this new concept that we launched, which was a hosting service in which we interviewed these members or these clients, and they said, your prices are too low. You need to price it higher, and we're willing to pay for this type of thing just to make sure everything gets done. So we kind of were told to raise our prices to have the flexibility to include this service, with every trip if we can. And so hearing that was really a moment of, well, this is a chance for some extra revenue, and you get to build the relationships to where there's a huge amount of loyalty from those clients. So that's changed the way we looked at our trips. That was really early on too, where we were really only doing a few trips a year. And with that hosting aspect of it, it's launched us into our own little niche of the travel industry. I'm appreciative that that reservation wasn't there with the transportation company.
It's so valuable when your customers will point blank tell you what product they want and expect from you. And if they tell you to raise your prices, you should almost always listen to them. That's not a luxury that I get to have in the insurance world where everything is regulated and the pricing is set by law. As you've built this business serving clients who expect white glove treatment, how do you build the kind of trust that keeps them coming back year after year?
Oh, I think it really is just a matter of consistency and actually proving what you're speaking about. If you're going to say that you're going to deliver high customer service, you have to actually prove it to them first. They're only going to give you one chance, and if that trip goes poorly, they're going to move on. Keeping in mind, is this really the first time that we're experiencing these clients? And if so, we need to be on our game here and just understanding the importance of the first impression. The other thing that I've decided is an important aspect is not nickel and diming people. There's a balance. If there's something somebody needs while we're on a trip and we run to the store and get it, we're not going to say, here's the bandages that you wanted me to grab. It'll be $5.50. Like, you just do things and don't talk about price. With the high end clientele, it's not about the nickels and dimes. They'll pay it, but it's a give and take. We do things out of the blue for them financially that we have a budget built in for that. It's similar to how the Ritz-Carlton operates, where they all have the budget to make special moments. We have that ability to where if they have a bad round of golf and they're bummed out about how they played, you go in and you just treat them to a drink and help them to forget about it. Doing stuff like that is part of the experience, and it also shows that we genuinely care about them and what their experience is like. That's the main focus for us.
We talked during our introductory call about relationship based growth. What does that mean to you? And how do you know when a client's loyalty has turned into advocacy for your company?
Well, it's a really good sign when you get a message from them, whether phone call, email, text message is even better. When you get a text message from a client, that means you've made it. You don't text people unless you're pretty close with them, right? I mean,
Mhm.
your phone call's great and email's good, but if you get a text message, that means that you're buddies with that person more than likely. That's always a good sign when they reach out to you and it's not prompted in any way. It's not because we just sent out a promotional email. It's not because we sent them an email blast of any kind. It's because they have a need and they thought of me first and they want to hear my perspective on it first. A lot of guys will call and ask about a new destination. What do you think about this place? Should we do it? Can you do it for us? And that's when you really know that you've hit the jackpot, because what happens is they are surrounded by like-minded people. So if they like you, you probably like them, and they probably have friends that are similar to their personalities and values, and they'll invite 7 of their friends to go on a trip with you. And now all of a sudden you've got 8 friends instead of 1. It's so important to really involve those clients that you really connect with on a personal level, and that's where our loyalty program comes in. We have a loyalty program where we send special opportunities to them. We invite them to special events, and then at the end of the year they always get a nice surprise gift. It's not really a surprise anymore, but they get a nice gift box in the
Mhm.
mail just telling them thank you for traveling with us this year, and offering new trips to them. So it all works together.
Well, Anthony, some of your best trips require 3 to 4 hosts. What does that team coordination look like behind the scenes for you and your team?
Some of our bigger trips, definitely we've had 3 or 4 hosts just because you want to keep the ratio. Otherwise, you lose service level. If it's just me and there's 40 people on site, I'm not going to be able to answer all their questions and be
Mhm.
everywhere they need me to. And so for us, empowering each host that we have on site with the ability and the mindset of be looking for what they need, be proactive. I've had times where I've overheard someone say, "Oh, the battery in my rangefinder is dying." They're sitting there hitting the rangefinder trying to get it to work, and
Mhm.
I caught that in passing. So that's an opportunity where you run to the store, you get a battery, you show up on hole 2 or 3, and they're just like, "How in the world did you know that?" Oh, and that's what it's all about. And so empowering our hosts to do that, providing them with a budget and the ability to do so is key. And having a sit down before the event and really going over a game plan and making sure everybody has access to the tee times, the reservations, all the questions that you might get. You got to have the answer to them. That's the key for us. And then the last thing I'll say is the importance of a simple notepad is unbelievable. When you're on a trip, you get asked about all different types of requests, and then they usually come in waves. They
Mm.
come when 5 people are standing around and they all ask you something. If you can do something, if you can follow up on something, if you can change something, that's where a notepad comes in. Scribble it down. You can look at it, 30 minutes later, and, you'll be glad you did. Uh, just helps keep you on your toes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I actually found myself sort of part-time helping out in a local restaurant during COVID, mostly because I knew the restaurant owner and he was having a hard time keeping staff in there at that time. But I'm in my 40s. I don't keep details in my head anymore. That's what writing it down was for. I don't know how the 20-something-year-olds could just remember 5 or 6 orders in a row. Like, you should write it down because if it's important, you're gonna need to be able to refer to it later. It sounds a lot like
Absolutely.
you, are teaching your team to be problem solvers on the front end, anticipate the problem, and have the solution ahead of time so that if it comes up, then you already have that piece there to help accommodate that guest. And that's a really valuable skill no matter what your business is.
Right, and I'll say too, it's not even so much teaching as it is just having the right people. A few of our hosts are former PGA professionals themselves that have been in the private club world for 20, 30 years even. And so you don't have to tell them what to be looking out for. They're already wired to do that. I honestly can learn a lot from them. And so we try to see who can come up with the best service story and who went above and beyond the most. It's sort of a competition.
When we spoke before, you mentioned that y'all have seen consistent annual growth with your business without having to do big ad and marketing campaigns. What are the small, consistent things that you guys do that drive success?
The key to all that is keeping your customers, client retention. That's the key to growing at a consistent pace. But the ways to do that, something that we really think is important is visiting our clients face to face. So we work a lot with private golf clubs to do their member trips for them. And so making an annual trip or maybe even twice a year to the club to actually visit, sit down, see how things are going and plan out the next 12 months of travel, and dreaming with them about where they want to go next. That helps keep them on board year after year. And then adding business will come as long as you do a good job. People will talk, and you'll start to add business while also retaining it. And that's where that consistent growth comes from.
Have y'all ever felt pressure to grow faster than what you have? And how do you stay committed to your slow and steady pace when sometimes business world would require faster scaling?
Yeah, it's definitely tempting, right? That's what you see in the movies, and you see stories of how, people X their business overnight, and it's attractive, but there's a cost to that. There's a imbalance in order for that to happen, and some people, thrive in that scenario. But me and my business partner, we're very like-minded in the way that, we're pretty content. I think that's the key, to doing the slow and steady mentality is just being content with where you're at. We've created a nice little career for ourselves, and that alone is great. So everything else is gravy. When you start scaling, there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of people that you need to involve. There's a lot of money that you need to invest. And risk. And to us, we just don't want to live that lifestyle. We want to have peace during this process and go with the flow and see where the business takes us. And, that's not for everybody, but that's definitely the way that we look at it. It's not all or nothing. Businesses and money is not all or nothing. It's just what we do, and we try to have fun doing it.
You have a business that's built around something you love. So there's no reason to take that out of the business just for the sake of growth. What lessons have you learned about growth that has surprised you or challenged your assumptions from when you first started your business?
I would say, you can't just pour money onto a business and expect it to grow. We tried, well, I shouldn't say we, I tried, because I'm stubborn. I was telling myself, we don't do any Google ads. We don't do anything online marketing wise. Surely we're missing something. So we invested, some money in Google ads, and what do you know, it didn't work. Now I understand you've got to really play the long game with that stuff, but after a few $1,000s of investing in Google ads, I didn't see any results. And that was eye opening to say, you know what, it's not about how much money you put into something, it's putting it into the right thing. And so we've invested in partnerships with professional networks that have golf professionals that are clientele, and that's been really, really successful. And so it's all about where you put the money, carefully. A lot of people think, well, if I just get an investor, if I just had someone to loan me, money to do this, then I'll be successful. But it's not the case. And honestly, it takes away that piece that I was just talking about. That's really what it brings into play. And there's a lot of responsibility when you start to take loans or you start looking for investors to try to grow that quickly. You know, like I said, there's a cost to all of that. And so that's in the way that we operate.
Let's shift gears a little bit. What trends are you seeing in the luxury golf travel space right now? How is client behavior shifting in a post pandemic world with more travel opening up?
I have noticed a difference in what destinations are desirable. I think the generations that are looking for the five-star resorts, perfectly manicured golf courses, I think those are starting to go on the wayside a little bit, or at least it's just giving up some of the market share. People are really looking for the cool destinations. My generation, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are really looking at destinations like Bandon Dunes or Sand Valley or, places like that are kind of off grid, and they're cool to be able to say that you went and did that. There's not any frills to them. There's no, huge hotel or luxury swimming pool or anything like that. It's just golf, just pure golf. That's what attracts people to Scotland and Ireland, because over there, they don't offer these other amenities like we do here in the States. And I think that really resonates with a pure golfer, someone that really loves the game of golf and that it's all about just playing the game. You're seeing it all over the Carolinas. Here in my backyard in, Aiken County, we've got 3 or 4 golf courses, private golf clubs going in. They're all designed in that rustic way, link style golf. It's not about perfectly lush fairways or lush rough. It's about just pure golf, and you're seeing that all over. That style of golf is now taking over, and so that's been interesting to see. It's just the new phase of clients that we're seeing as people in their 60s and 70s fade out of our market. This is what we're being asked for, is what's the cool new place that no one's really heard about, or is up and coming.
I think everybody likes to think they've discovered something. So if you can put into a trip and go somewhere that your other friends have maybe not heard of, but then like, man, I've been meaning to go there. Like we all like to be at the front of our peer group, no matter what our interests are. So it makes sense that you'd be seeing that in your section of the market. What's something within your business that looks surprisingly easy from the outside, but takes a lot more work than somebody who's outside your business would really understand?
I was thinking about this. I think there may not be as much appreciation for the travel pages that we create that has all everyone's information, the itinerary, the details of each day, things like that we create specifically for them for that trip.
Mhm,
That takes hours and hours a lot of times.
mhm,
And a lot of people don't even read it, which I get it. They're on vacation. They're not going to read all their things. They just want to go play golf. Where do I go? Where's the
mhm.
first tee? And but you've got to provide that sort of detail and that sort of level of just service for them to have all that information, trying to take care of any question that could be asked, right? And so you provide that to them up front. That helps keep you freed up during the trip. I'd say that's something that takes a lot of time, and it's kind of a grind to put all that together. Luckily, I've got help with that as well. It's not just me doing it. but then orchestrating all that too and thinking through how is this itinerary going to flow the best, interviewing people that have been there, talking with the resorts about what they recommend, orchestrating the whole thing like it's a play almost. You have to try to figure out the best combination of things to put together to make it a great experience. A lot of people just see the end product. They just see, well, there's a package for sale, and they buy it or they don't buy it. But what goes into that, and really the site visits and the research is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you don't see.
I promise, as the type A person in my group, even though golf isn't per se my thing, there's at least that one friend in every group that really appreciates having that at their fingertips because they're usually the ones that everybody else is going to going, you're the one who reads those details. So how do you how do you approach curating new destinations or experiences while still maintaining your standards for service and relationships?
I take to golf magazines that I get in the mail. There's always a Golf Digest, other golf magazines that have a list of new destinations or the highest ranked destinations. There's always a travel edition of that magazine that comes
Mhm.
out once or twice a year. I'm always flipping through those and seeing if there's something I missed with offerings. So that's one way I look at new destinations. Um, the other is interviewing people who have already traveled with us. Where do you want to go next? We always ask that after the trip, just out of curiosity. Where are people looking to go? That's where a lot of our new destinations have come from. We just started offering Hawaii a few months ago, and it was all because one of our top clients requested. He said, "I've got a bunch of members that want to go to Hawaii." And I was like, well, we don't really do that, but let me see what I can do. And so I did some research. I didn't realize there's a few great golf courses over there. There's a lot to do as a non-golfer. The accommodations that we found are second to none. And it turned into this really great package. It's now our biggest seller at the moment. I mean, it's so popular right now. People want to go and do it. That's definitely one of our biggest ways of finding new destinations. And then also YouTube, a lot of YouTube influencers and people that go out and travel, play golf, those type of channels, I try to pay attention to because they find those little hidden gems that really make you sound like an expert. And so I'm always watching those and seeing what I can learn in that way too. It opens your eyes. Most people don't realize you can go play golf in Iceland. I've discovered that over the last couple of years that Iceland's actually a really cool place, and it's through YouTube and through other people who have mentioned it. It's now something we offer. It's not all about a list that you see online. It's not all about, reviews. It's keeping in tune with the golf community.
So really knowing your customer, and that's important across almost all of the businesses as well. If I don't know my clientele, I sure don't know what products to offer them. And that's interesting. My sister has been to Iceland a couple of times, but neither she nor her husband are involved in your particular sport. So I doubt either one of them would have told me about golf courses there. I've got some buddies that would probably be interested in that.
It's amazing out there. The homepage of our website at the moment is me hitting the tee shot on hole one out there. So it's absolutely beautiful. And it's just as close to get to there as it is to Oregon from where I'm at. It's like a 5-hour flight, maybe a little bit more, maybe 5 hours from the Northeast. But it's pretty close by, and so it's a fun destination.
Anthony, as your business has grown and your team has expanded, how have you approached planning for time off or unexpected absences or even family leave? I know y'all have recently grown your family. How do you guys approach that in your business?
Well, we've started this whole thing with the idea that the 9 to 5 doesn't really exist for us. I think the 9 to 5 concept is crazy. And I think a lot of people share that perspective nowadays. I don't think that's a new concept at all, but um if you really look at how much time you really need to get things done, it's
Mhm.
not 8 hours a day. You can sit down and focus for 3 or 4 hours. And there's research on this too. And you can be just as productive as you need to be, getting it done in a smaller window of time. And so that's what we try to do is really shorten our days with high efficiency work so that gives us more flexibility to do things as a family or just have time personally to explore hobbies or play golf ourselves. Don't get to do much of that, but it's good to make time, just enjoy life. And so we just have that philosophy. As long as the work gets done, it doesn't matter. There's going to be days where you really need to put a bunch of hours in because you have something coming up, but there's also going to be days where you don't have a lot going on and you can go tee it up after lunch. You don't want to be stuck in this box of, well, I got to do my 9 to 5, or because I'm a business owner, I need to be doing 80 hours a week. From my perspective, I don't know what I would do for 80 hours. That would be impossible for me to fill all that time. If you really work efficiently, you can have a much more free, flexible lifestyle. We really put that as a priority, and are blessed to be able to do that, because I know a lot of people are forced to have a set schedule, and so luckily we don't have to work around that.
We talk about that quite a bit in my team. I mean, obviously, we have to do business when the insurance companies are open. So we loosely scheduled work around that 9 to 5 schedule. But we also talk about figuring out what your life priorities are and making sure you have the time for those in your schedule before you start putting your client time in there, because the client time will eat up as much time as you give it. And sometimes that's 2 hours out of the day. And during open enrollment, it might be more like 12-hour days, but it's a very short window of the year for us. But we talk a lot about that focused work so that you do have that time to live life, because that's one of the beauties of either working for yourself or working in a business where it allows that flexibility. Do you find that your high end clients are more mindful about protecting their travel investments, or do you still see gaps in how they think about risk when they're traveling abroad?
And this is total speculation because I only really know one side of the industry, right? It's the people with high net worth, the people that are just going on these trips all the time. But I think they're probably a little more loose with their risk, high risk tolerance, just because they can afford to lose it. Whereas if someone's saving up for years and years to go on a special trip, they're going to want to protect that because there's no getting that money back. But people are aware of, especially our clientele, they're aware of what's going on in the world. They're aware of risk associated with different areas. And so a lot of times they'll tell us, they'll ask us about, hey, what have you heard about the current events going on in XYZ country? And it'll be news to us. We'll have to look into it. But the people with high net worth, they obviously don't want to lose out their investment, but it's also a different scale than what the average person is used to. And so we encourage travel insurance because it's usually only a couple $100, and you can have peace of mind if something happens a week before or less, especially if you have any health issues or anything like that. But we always encourage it. We have a recommended travel insurance provider that it's not our company, but it's just a partner that we have, and we help everyone to kind of think about it ahead of time so that they at least do that before they sign a cancellation policy that kind of locks up their monies.
We've seen more of that in our industry as people are starting to travel more. And I guess just as our clients are getting older and are becoming more aware of the risk that, no offense, but maybe somebody in their 30s isn't thinking about the way that somebody in their 60s is maybe seeing a buddy have an issue abroad and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the key is putting the shoes on your own feet, experience your own customer experience, and you got to run through what's the customer experience like, and you'll be able to point out weaknesses or flaws in whatever you're doing that the customer would see, that you can get ahead of and correct. That's why it's really important for us as people that host golf trips to actually go out and do them ourselves, because you've got to have the knowledge and the expertise and have those special little nuggets of information of, here's what you do or here's what you don't do when you're out there. Here's a nice little secret for you. Experiencing your own experience is something that we like to try to do. Before we launched the Hawaii trip, me and my wife went out there for a site visit, and we spent 72 hours in Hawaii, which is probably the shortest amount of time anyone's ever spent out there. It was 3 quick days, and we were seeing the Four Seasons. We were seeing the Ritz-Carlton. We saw 2 islands in 3 days and looked at the golf courses, stayed at the properties for one night, and that was it. But we got to at least know, what we were selling. It would have been hard to offer that at such a high price point without having been there ourselves to say that we actually endorse it. That's something you really have to do. You can't offer something, call yourself a high-end, high customer service company without actually feeling and seeing what you're selling. It just doesn't work.
What is something you wish you had done earlier in your business or understood earlier in your business journey?
Um, I would probably get more versed on technology. There's a lot of technology integrations that I think that we need as a business. Um, but I'm just not proficient on that. I think it would have been nice to have some of those skills early on, whether, I took classes or, learned personally how to do some of these things because it's expensive to hire somebody to incorporate technology into your business. So if you can do that yourself as an owner, you can save yourself a lot of money and actually can provide quite a service for yourself. That's definitely something. One of my weaker points, I would say, is knowing how to do all that stuff.
As fast as technology is moving, even if you are more of a techie person, which is not me either, despite the fact that we're doing this all virtually, it's almost impossible to feel like you stay ahead of it unless you literally work in that industry. But yes, knowing where to invest in technology is something I've really looked at as a business owner myself. What does success look like today now that your definition has shifted away from grow at something big to more of a grow at something more sustainable and meaningful?
Success for me personally, I'm not speaking for everybody. Success for me is having that flexibility in a day-to-day setting, being able to go backpacking for a few days if you really want to, or going on a weekend trip, or having that flexibility to do things on your own schedule. That's success to me. As long as you're paying the bills and you're hitting your marks and all that, it's important to have that flexibility to do what really makes you happy and um fulfilled. And then also another kind of mark of success for me is the ability to start other businesses. With doing this business, it's sort of given me ideas to do other customer service related businesses, and so I'm excited to do that as well.
One last question to wrap this up. If you were mentoring a younger version of yourself or somebody who is getting ready to start a business, what would you tell them to focus on first?
I'll take a little different approach here with something that a common response would be. To me personally, as a Christian, I think you have to have God first. I think you have to have a strong faith, strong foundation, because what that does is it just puts everything in perspective to where you're not overreacting to things, glorifying money. You're not trying to get all these worldly, pleasures, and you can have more peace with the way that you're doing things, knowing that ultimately, it's just a job, it's just a career. Yeah, it's important to have success, but it's not what it's all about. Success is really just a tool to help others, to help people. And so if you can really start with that foundation early on, that'll change how you look at things like debt and things that maybe look good on the outside but can lead you down a different route than you were hoping. And so having a strong, faith foundation, for me, a Christian centered faith is something that has just made the whole process pretty easy in terms of making decisions. It's pretty obvious. God makes it pretty clear on what to do in certain situations. So if you follow that, usually you'll end up in a good spot down the road.